There is something comforting about watching an old dog settle down on the porch after a day's work. He circles twice, lets out a long sigh, and rests his head on his paws as the evening grows quiet. A good dog never asks for much. A dry place to sleep, a kind hand on his head, and a bowl that never comes empty. Yet when his coat loses its shine and his skin begins to itch, you can see the change long before he ever lets on that something is wrong. That was something my grandfather noticed before anyone else. He had worked the same patch of land for more than 50 years, and there was never a time when there wasn't at least one loyal dog walking beside him. He used to say a dog's coat tells a story. A thick, glossy coat speaks of good care. A dry, flaky coat whispers that something inside the bowl is missing. Now I should tell you something before we go any farther. I am not a veterinarian, and I never pretend to be one. If a dog has serious illness, sudden weight loss, wounds that won't heal, or keeps scratching until the skin bleeds, that belongs in the hands of a good veterinarian. What I'm sharing today is simply the kind of everyday care farm families passed from one generation to the next. Some of it still makes good sense today. When I was a young boy, we had an old border collie named Jack. He worked the sheep from sunrise until evening without ever needing to be told twice. One summer, his coat turned dull. The rich black fur that had always shined in the sunlight suddenly looked dusty and rough. He wasn't sick, but he seemed different. I remember asking my grandfather if we should buy one of those expensive powders the feed store had started selling. He smiled, shook his head, and walked straight into the kitchen. He came back carrying something so ordinary that I almost laughed. An egg. Not a fancy supplement. Not a vitamin powder. Not a bottle with colorful labels. Just one simple egg. He cracked it into Jack's supper, stirred it well, and said, "Dogs were healthy long before somebody learned to put vitamins in a plastic jar." At the time, I thought it sounded too simple to matter. Years later, I realized there was more wisdom in that little sentence than I understood as a child. An egg is one of nature's most complete foods. It contains protein that helps build healthy muscles and supports the growth of skin and fur. The yolk carries healthy fats that help keep the coat soft instead of dry and brittle. It also contains vitamins and minerals that play a part in healthy skin. The old farmers didn't know every scientific name for those nutrients, but they could see the results with their own eyes. That does not mean every dog needs eggs every single day. That is where many people make a mistake. Most healthy adult dogs only need an egg once or twice each week, depending on their size and what else they eat. Too much of any rich food can upset a dog's stomach. The old-timers believed in balance more than anything else. My grandfather always cooked the egg lightly before mixing it into the food. Some folks feed raw eggs, and many dogs do fine with them, but lightly cooking the egg reduces the small risk of harmful bacteria. It also makes the protein easier for many dogs to digest. That little extra step never seemed like much work when you cared about the animal eating it. But that is only part of the story. The egg itself was never the real secret. The real secret was paying attention. My grandfather watched every dog the way some people watch the weather. He noticed if they scratched more than usual. He noticed if they stopped wagging their tails with the same excitement. He noticed if they drank more water or walked a little slower. A healthy coat began with noticing small changes before they became big problems. Many people wait until the dog is miserable before they think about nutrition. The old farmers started much earlier. There's another simple kitchen food they often trusted: plain sardines packed in water, not the ones covered in spicy sauce, not the heavily salted kind, just plain sardines. Only a small amount every now and then. The natural oils in fish help support healthy skin and a glossy coat. Anyone who has ever seen an old farm dog with thick, shining fur knows that good fat matters just as much as good protein. Those healthy oils help the skin stay flexible instead of dry, especially during cold winters when indoor heating can dry everything out. Still, moderation mattered. Too much rich food could leave a dog with stomach trouble instead of better health. That is something the old farmers understood well. Now here's something many people never realize. Good food cannot fix every itchy dog. Sometimes the itching comes from fleas, sometimes from allergies, sometimes from infections hiding beneath the skin. No kitchen remedy can solve every problem. If your dog develops open sores, loses patches of fur, smells unusually bad, or seems to be in pain, it is time to let a veterinarian take over. There is no shame in asking for professional help. In fact, knowing when home care has reached its limit is part of being a responsible owner. My grandfather believed stubbornness had no place when an animal was suffering. That lesson stayed with me. Another habit surprised me even more: fresh water. It sounds almost too ordinary to mention, yet plenty of dogs drink less than they should, especially during colder months. Healthy skin depends on moisture from the inside as much as anything placed into the food bowl. A dog that stays well hydrated often has healthier skin than one that doesn't. The old water bucket on our farm was cleaned every single morning. Not every week, every morning. Grandfather said dirty water makes nobody healthier. Simple habits often matter more than expensive products. Then there was brushing. Children thought brushing was about making a dog look pretty. It wasn't. Brushing removed loose hair, spread the skin's natural oils across the coat, improved airflow to the skin, and gave the owner a chance to check for bumps, cuts, ticks, or irritated spots before they became serious. Those few quiet minutes with a brush often prevented problems that no vitamin could ever fix. There is another mistake people sometimes make. They begin adding one supplement after another: fish oil, powders, chews, tablets. Before long, the dog's dinner looks more like a medicine cabinet than a meal. The old farmers rarely believed health came from one magical ingredient. They believed healthy dogs came from many small habits done consistently: good food, fresh water, regular brushing, enough exercise, clean bedding, plenty of shade in summer, a warm place in winter, kindness every day. None of those things are exciting, but together they build strong animals. If you ever decide to add new foods to your dog's diet, do it slowly. Introduce only one new item at a time and watch how your dog responds over several days. Every animal is different. What suits one may upset another. A gradual change gives the stomach time to adjust and makes it easier to notice if something doesn't agree with your dog. And please remember one warning that every dog owner should know. Never assume foods that are healthy for people are automatically safe for dogs. Foods like onions, garlic in large amounts, grapes, raisins, chocolate, and products containing xylitol can be dangerous or even life-threatening. When in doubt, ask your veterinarian before adding something new to the bowl. It is always better to ask one simple question than to regret a dangerous mistake. Looking back now, I don't remember the brands of dog food we bought all those years ago. I don't remember the price of the feed, but I do remember my grandfather quietly cracking that egg into Jack's supper while the evening sun slipped behind the old maple trees. Jack lived a long life. His coat stayed thick. His eyes stayed bright, and he never cared whether his meal came from a shiny package or a simple kitchen. He only cared that someone remembered to fill the bowl. If you have an old family recipe or feeding habit that has served your dogs well over the years, I'd truly enjoy hearing about it. Tell us where you're from and what has worked for your dogs. Every part of the country has its own traditions, and there's always something new to learn from one another. Next time, I'd like to share another forgotten bit of farm wisdom about the simple foods. Old families kept on hand to help aging dogs stay active through their later years. Some of those quiet traditions are nearly forgotten now, but they still carry lessons worth remembering. The people who lived close to the land rarely believed there was a shortcut to good health. They believed in patience, careful observation, honest work, and simple food prepared with care. Their dogs repaid that kindness with years of faithful companionship, and perhaps that is the finest lesson they left behind.